What can you say about the Miami Heat on Monday night against the Memphis Grizzlies? Coming into the game off one of their biggest wins of the year against the Boston Celtics in Boston, you just knew that the Miami Heat wouldn't come into this game with a letdown effort. However, that's exactly what they did. Proving that they wouldn't be able to follow up on that win in Boston from Friday, the Miami Heat came in and allowed the Memphis Grizzlies to basically impose their will on them and specifically impose that will in the paint. When you look at the numbers from the game, it tells the story. The Memphis Grizzlies scored 64 of their 101 points in the paint. Again, 64. The Miami Heat only scored 24 of their 93 points in the paint. But it doesn't even matter how many you score as a team when you allow the other team to score 64, which is well over half of their 101 points. Looking at the Memphis Grizzlies from three, they only shot 8 of 32, 25%. Looking at the Miami Heat from three, 14 of 40, 35%. They were cooking early from out there, but couldn't get shots to go late, which is also something that hurt them. But they were already down double digits for the most part, closing the game over the last 6 minutes, the last part of the fourth quarter. So perhaps that wouldn't even matter either. But then again, who knows? At the end of the day, the Miami Heat should have been able to come in and beat a team without Ja Morant, without Desmond Bane, without Jaren Jackson Jr. in the lineup. But the Miami Heat should have been able to come into Memphis and beat a team without Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, or Jaren Jackson Jr. in the lineup. They're top three players if you really want to be honest about it. Dillon Brooks comes in somewhere between 3 and 4, but if you were to take the top three from that team, it will probably be Bane, Jackson Jr., and of course Ja Morant. But the Miami Heat weren't able to do that, and that was largely due to their own ineptitude in the first half. Early on in that game, you could just see it through their lethargic body language and their lackadaisicalness that they didn't seem as though they wanted to be there. And oftentimes that does happen when you're coming into a situation facing a team that won't have all of their top stars. But you would hope that this particular Miami Heat team, coming off of the Boston win and being in a situation that they have been in early to start this season, that they wouldn't let that happen to them. That's especially when you're getting Jimmy Butler back, especially when Bam Adebayo has been playing the way he has, and especially when you know that you're a team fighting for everything that you can get in a tough Eastern Conference this year. At the end of it all, you want to take this team for face value and say that at their best, that's what they'll be on most nights. But then you can't help but see what they are at their worst. And not that this is their absolute worst, but it isn't that far off. And it's not always about wins, losses, and box scores or how the final tally looks as much as how the team looks along the way. And this was a conversation that I had with many prior to the game. You expected the Miami Heat to win. They should have won the game. However, even in a loss, it depends on how you lose. And not only did the Miami Heat drop this game to an underwhelming, a non-healthy, but a simply undermanned Memphis Grizzlies team, but they did it in a fashion where it left you unencouraged walking out of the game. The Miami Heat have another game on Tuesday against the Detroit Pistons. And just to be frank, I imagine Jimmy Butler won't play. Coming off of the long absence and with what he had to do tonight, even in a loss, I feel as though they'll probably sit him. It's another opportunity for the Miami Heat to go in and get a win or have a letdown. We'll see which way that goes. But coming off of this Memphis loss, it should leave a bad enough taste in their mouth where they go out and get the job done. Tyler Hero had himself a game. Bam Adebayo regressed a bit. And nobody really stood out and set themselves apart. On top of the overall lack of energy that you saw from them as a group, that'll get you beat every time. Of course, allowing 64 points in the paint never helps either.